Hey UK Bills Mafia, this is Christian Wade of your Buffalo Bills. This is the Red, White and Buffalo Blues, a UK Bills podcast with your hosts, Matt and Alex. Let's go Buffalo! Woo!
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Red, White and Buffalo Blues, a UK Bills podcast. Bills news with a UK twist. I am, as always, your host, Matt. This is, as always, Alex, my co-host. Alex, how you been?
I'm good, great. We spent my wife and I the last few days driving around England, visiting some castles, seeing some ruins, really just digging into the history. It was a lot of fun, and that's the reason why I'm not on the show this week.
Yes, 15 minutes away down Corfe Castle, and you couldn't send me a message. I had to find out on Instagram. That was
Yeah.
broke my heart.
Oh,
I
you
felt
poor
sad.
thing.
Could have said, and I could have invited you for a cup of tea. Oh.
Yeah, no, that's definitely on me. You've told me where you live a bunch of times, because I'm like, hey, let's go to London for the game, and you're like, I'm too far away. I'm like, I get that, but then I forget immediately. But
Yeah.
yeah, whoops. I guess I'm a bad person. But I mean,
Yes.
would we even am I allowed to come over? COVID rules.
Yeah.
Boris Johnson says we can. Can we?
We-
What does Boris say?
we've got an entrance to the back garden. We've got 3 layers. We've got a hot tub in one layer. We've got 2 other layers. We can easily go 2 meters, 2 meters and have a chat and a cup of Rosie Lee.
Did you say hot tub? I'm not getting in a hot tub with you. Weird.
Why not? For fun.
Oh,
Great.
pass.
No? Okay.
Pass. Hard pass.
Just tea on the decking then. That's no
That's
fun.
fine. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's drink hot tea in 34-degree weather. Yeah, that's a great idea.
That's what us Brits do.
Serve some Pims, then I'm over in a minute. All right.
I'll see if I can get some. But
Yeah.
yes, that's the reason why you weren't here for this video, for this episode, where I actually spoke to Myles from British Birdgang UK and Arizona Cardinals UK fan group. So Alex, because I obviously didn't, you weren't on the show, I couldn't ask you this question. What are your thoughts on the matchup?
Well, I think from last year, I didn't see enough from Kyler Murray to make me too worried. But then they go out and get DeAndre Hopkins, so we get to do that again. So Trey will be on him, but you still have the ageless wonder, Larry Fitzgerald,
Yeah,
Christian Kirk. Is he good or is he not? Kind of this might be the year we find out. Um, so their offense is a little bit worrying to me. Their defense absolutely isn't. There's nothing scary about their defense.
mm.
Um, you know, uh, I remember in the
Well, apart from
in
Chandler
the in the
Jones.
that's one guy. You can stop him. Yeah, I'm not too worried about it. I really wish they beat Pittsburgh in that Super Bowl a few years ago. So I've always kind of been fond of Larry Fitzgerald.
Mm.
I remember Jake Plummer. He was just a fun, weird guy to watch play football. So there just a lot of these West Coast interviews that we're doing. We play, a really weird division this year that we don't see very often.
Yeah.
So it's interesting in that sense, but it's
Mm.
definitely something that I'll say is I'm expecting a W.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. I mean, you'll hear my views. You'll hear great conversation between me and Myles. We talk about Hopkins. We talk about Diggs and what's actually brewing in Arizona. So if you're watching this on YouTube, get that popcorn ready and get ready to actually watch a brilliant episode. If you're listening on one of our many podcast channels, turn up that volume, stick those earphones in, and enjoy as I talk to Myles from the British Birdgang UK.
Enjoy.
And joining us on the
Now the dog's just wandering into there. No, I don't need you today. Bye bye.
Hello.
That's Hendrix.
Welcome to the Red, White and Buffalo Blues. I'm joined by Myles from the British Birdgang. Myles, how are you doing, my friend? Thank you for joining us on the show.
You're very welcome. Yeah, it's good to be here on a very warm day.
Yeah, it's a very, very warm day. I'm waiting for the thunderstorm to roll in tonight, hopefully.
Yeah,
Maybe sit out in the rain for a bit.
Sounds like a plan.
Well, the first question I would usually get my co-host to actually ask, but I get to ask it this time. How did you become a Cardinals fan?
That's a good question, and it's I have to really sort of stretch my memory back. So I've actually been following the Cardinals since mid '80s.
Okay.
So when Channel 4 first started showing the NFL over here in the UK, and I was sort of 12, 13 years old watching the games. So at that time, there was a lot of people that followed, I think, Bears, Dolphins, Cowboys, Giants.
Yeah.
They were probably the sort of the big names at that point. I'm sort of locally from Oxford originally. I'm an Oxford United supporter, so I needed to choose a team of sort of fairly equal rubbish standing.
Yeah, true.
And the Cardinals sort of jumped out. So at that time they were in St. Louis, so I was a St. Louis Cardinals fan, and just followed them since then.
That's cool. I mean, I'm a West Ham fan, so Bills and West Ham sort of go together. Bit of the underdogs, bit of their probably not won anything for a long time, so I can kind of relate to the Oxford and Cardinals comparison.
Hopefully then the matchup between the Cardinals and the Bills works out the same way as the Oxford West Ham matchup last season.
God, I should not have mentioned that. You got lucky. We had a rubbish goalkeeper.
4-0 lucky.
No, it's great. Obviously, great. Alex loves hearing about these things. I think he's probably a little bit pissed that he's actually on holiday right now for it. But this off-season, both teams had the big trade. Obviously, we had Stephon Diggs we got from Minnesota for a first and a fourth. But you managed to get DeAndre Hopkins and literally steal him cheaply from the Texans. What was the reaction when you actually heard he was coming over, and obviously what you actually gave up?
Well, is that or is that not the best second round pick going?
That's true.
That's basically what we gave up. We gave up our second round pick this year for Nuke. I mean, come on. It's just fantastic. He's joining up with the absolute first ballot Hall of Famer Larry Fitz. He's coming back, 17th season.
Yeah.
He's back for his 17th season. His role has changed over the last few years. He's playing much more in the slot. But he's the safest pair of hands you can get. So then to bring in Hopkins as well is just phenomenal. What a great piece of business.
Takes a bit of pressure off Fitzgerald then. Obviously you took Isabella last year, but obviously with Hopkins now, you can actually take a little bit more pressure off Fitzgerald now and allow him to carry on being the Hall of Famer elect that he actually is.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have got some great young talent there at wide receiver as well. You've mentioned Isabella. We've got Christian Kirk as well.
Yeah. Hopefully
he's going to have a bit more of a breakout season this year. I can see him playing in the slot a bit more. And he's got Keyshawn Johnson as well, Hakeem Butler. These are eager young players that can learn from the likes of Fitz and now Hopkins as well.
Yeah, so it's pretty much similar to the Diggs situation here in Buffalo. Obviously, that frees up John Brown for being a number 2, but it also opens up a lot for other players. Actually, you've got that one superstar now in Hopkins. I'm not saying Fitzgerald's not a superstar, but a current superstar, one that actually will take those double teams that allow others to actually just grow and flourish and have no pressure on there, just like the Bills with Diggs, which will free up Beasley, Brown, Knox, maybe Gabe Davis for us. So in all, you've obviously had the better deal out of both of us with it, but it makes a whole lot of difference to that offense. And obviously you're returning, you've got Kyler Murray, who has actually had a really breakout season, and the future is actually is bright. Really, how do you see his development now going when he's not got the likes of Hopkins as well as Fitzgerald to throw to?
I think it's very exciting what Kyler can do. I think a few people were actually dismissive of what he did last season. They were expecting, an awful lot more. But come on, you can't really when you look at where we were, where he's come in. We were coming off a 3-13 season. With an awful lot of gaps in the roster at that point. We've got a new head coach, and regardless of the relationship there clearly is between Cliff Kingsbury and Kyler Murray, and all the speculation that was going on before the draft and what have you. The NFL is a whole new ball game, isn't it?
Yeah.
Point of phrase.
Exactly.
And to learn the game the way he did, some people were critical of his sort of play reading, and I think he was critical of that as well, because the common thing is pointing the finger at O-line, saying, our O-line is shocking. And it has been bad. Last season, I think it was made to look worse by Kyler because he was keeping the ball and running with it and getting taken down when actually he didn't need to. And he's held his hands up to that. He's learned from that. So coming into this season, it's going to be really interesting to see how much he's developed. He's certainly bulked up. Seeing him, the pictures of him from training camp, he's put on a bit of bulk, a bit of muscle. Let's hope he's still got that explosive speed as well. He in training last season, he ran a 4.340. And he beat Andy Isabella.
So
when you've got that sort of speed as an option, it's very hard to play against. And then of course you've got talent like Hopkins and Fitz and Isabella and Kirk to throw the ball to. You've got Kenyon Drake to hand it off to. It's going to be a very interesting offense.
It's good. It's similar, obviously, from his first year. It's kind of similar to what we saw Josh Allen his first year. He liked to run more with the ball and hold on to it. But as we've seen, as most Bills fans have seen with Josh, he's actually now started to own it and actually stay in the pocket more. So I can see the similarities. Obviously, the blazing 4.3 speed, 40 speed is probably the major difference on there, but I can kind of see a bit of Josh Allen in Kyler Murray, at least in his rookie year. And you're right, you've got a really good offense to go, and it's going to be a very, very interesting next however many years you actually keep the majority of that offense together.
It's going to be interesting. Obviously, as ever with the NFL and rosters, it's balancing contracts, isn't it? It's when you're coming up to free agency and whether you can keep them, whether you can afford to keep them, and there's always pieces on both sides of the ball that you have to look at to do that, because I think at the moment we're putting together a very strong team. This season, I'm not expecting a huge amount. Possibly the season after, when we're getting into 2021, I think that's the season where actually we should be in a position to go for something.
So other than Hopkins during the off season, how confident do you feel of the draft picks you made, and of the free agency, and obviously just your overall view on how the Cardinals off season has actually gone?
I think it's gone pretty well in terms of where we've gone this season. I think we had a pretty strong draft. The sort of the independent gradings on the picks we had going through the draft were pretty strong. We've taken Isaiah Simmons in the first round at 8. When you want to talk about Swiss Army knife defender, blimey.
Exactly. I think he was the most coveted player there, wasn't he? Apart from obviously the quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think in some ways we were surprised he dropped as far as he did. I know 8's not that far, but
yeah,
other people could see him easily going, top 3, top 4. So that goes into a very strong defensive side of the ball. We've got a very strong secondary there. Obviously, Pat Peterson, who's I think he's going to make up a bit for last season. And the problems he had last season. You got Buda Baker playing safety, Pro Bowler last year. Who's absolutely flourishing. You got Isaiah Simmons, and of course, the sack king, Chandler Jones.
Yeah, that's the one to really look out for. I mean, looking obviously at your picks you've had this year. I mean, I've actually liked some of your picks. I mean, I was a big Lecky Fotu fan and Josh Jones fan. You took him in rounds 3 and round 4. So you've obviously looking to draft and obviously keeping that protection. It's obviously when you look at Kyler and obviously he's going to a second year, it's that really that window that you've actually got, and the way you actually bring these talent in, actually got a good eye. I mean, I thought Jones could have gone second. To get him in the third was actually great. That you've got that little window, so they've got to be really good hopes, and actually hopefully pressing during the training camp.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right about Josh Jones. I think that, again, he was one of those players people were surprised that he fell to the third. There's people saying could have gone much earlier. Than that. Lecky Photo, again, he's an absolute man mountain, isn't he?
He is. Yeah.
There's some strength on the defensive side of the ball there, but even then, going deep into the draft, taking Benjamin in the 7th round, running back out of Arizona State, again, local boy, so there's always the that instant fan affiliation there, isn't there? No, that's a pretty decent pick at running back, that deep in the draft, and adds another unit to that offense.
Yeah,
I think the thing with Kingsbury's offense as well that surprised people is, they're expecting him to doing his version of the air raid with 4 proper wide outs and slinging the ball all the time. Where actually, where he's come in, he's relied a lot more or used a lot more tight ends and running backs than people expected. Max Williams, the tight end, played like 47% of the snaps last season. Which people really didn't expect with that sort of. The Charles Clay, the other tight end, was like 38% of snaps.
Oh, that's a name for the past. Yeah, if he had made that catch, we'd probably be a little bit different in that season. But carry on. We'll just get distracted by Charles Clay.
So it's interesting stuff there. I think obviously this season's going to be very strange in terms of the preparation that's gone into it. The different the whole effect that COVID's had on training camp and what have you, and opt-outs. I think we've only had the one opt-out, and that's Marcus Gilbert, right tackle. So that is what it is.
Yeah, but anything's better than what the Patriots actually lost in their opt-out. So 1 or 2 is fine by most accounts.
Yeah.
But obviously, week 10 is the matchup. How confident are you going into that game?
Yeah, week 10's a long way away, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a lot to happen between now and then. I think if this was a week 1 matchup, let's look at that. If that was a week 1 matchup, I'd be quietly confident. I'm always slightly reserved, but I'll be confident. And one of the reasons for that is, you mentioned, Josh Allen's sort of similarity to Kyler. I think one of the issues with Josh, I think last season he was one of the worst under pressure and the worst versus the blitz. I think with the sort of the defense we have with, with Chandler Jones, with Buda Baker, with Isaac Simmons, that could bring that heat onto him, could see one of his less successful performances. So I think that's the thing that would probably swing it for us in that game going into week 1. But like I say, week 10.
Week 10. So if I had to actually put a couple of nails down and actually say nail down your confidence level. I mean, we've done about a few others. I think only really the Chiefs, I believe, are the only ones that really said they felt confident. Some said it's going to be close. I think there was one other guy, I can't remember who it was, actually said that they felt confident. Oh, the Broncos, that's the one that said they were quietly confident. So if I nailed down an answer right now and said to you, week 10, what are you feeling? I ask the hard questions.
I'll give us a 7 out of 10 to beat
Okay, I'll take that.
Yeah.
So obviously with the matchup, what are the Cardinals' weakness? Do you think that the Bills could exploit from that?
Yeah, it's a good one. I think although I was saying earlier on, the offensive line isn't quite as bad as people feel. I still think that is on the weaker side for the NFL. So that's a possibility to address there. On the offensive side, it's, have you got the range of weapons to attack our secondary? Pat P's always going to pick up your number one receiver.
Yeah.
And he's always fairly strong at that.
Yeah.
He's probably not been as dominating as he has been in the past. Certainly last season, coming off of his PED suspension for the first 6 games, he took a while to get back into the game. Now he's got a proper full preseason behind him, and it will be interesting to see how it goes on that one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think we have got some significant strengths. So probably the biggest weakness we had last year was defending against tight ends.
Mm-hmm.
We gave up a ridiculous amount of yards and points to tight ends.
I hope that's where Simmons would come in, I guess, for you guys playing that hybrid role to really take out the and keep track with the tight ends. I take it.
Yeah, and it's, you're right. Playing that hybrid could be the key thing. Chandler's always got his eyes on the quarterback.
Yeah, yeah, that's going to be. That'll be a good matchup.
And then go, oh wait a minute, there's a tight end gone that way.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting if they line him up against Dawkins or Cody Ford. Possibly they'll put him against Cody Ford, but we've seen Cody Ford against some of the good pass rushers that he's actually managed to hold his own. So
yeah,
the strengths then. So what do you think are the Bills' weakness, and obviously the strengths of the Cardinals, and how do you think they can expose a weakness if you see a weakness for the Bills?
Yeah, I think our greatest strength that will exploit weakness in your defense is the breadth of offense that we can bring now. Yes, we got the air raid, but there is a good running day there as well with Kenyon Drake.
Yeah,
you've got tight ends delivering, and then you've got the receivers threat, and you've got whatever Kyler decides he can do. And if he turns on the Jets, he's
with that speed, he's out of the window. The Speedy Gonzalez music go as he's going along.
Yeah, exactly. And I think in some ways, perhaps maybe our greatest weakness at the moment is youth. It's a young roster. It's still learning its trade. I think we're rated as probably one of the strongest sort of under 25-year-old rosters. Yeah. And the flip side of that is that they're still learning the game. And I think we're coming into this season, we're a team that can probably beat anyone on their day.
Yeah.
But by the same token, we could also lose to anyone on their day.
Yeah.
Coming off with 5-10-1 last season, I think coming into this season, 8-8 is perfectly respectable.
Mm-hmm.
I think 9-7 probably gives us a sneak into the playoffs, particularly with the playoffs being expanded.
Yeah. Yeah.
You go into 14 teams and 3 wild cards. There's a potential there. NFC West is a crazy strong division again.
Yes.
It's
going to be a very interesting
Hawk,
division.
Niners and Rams and us. There's there's a lot to be taken there. Even I can see, because of the relative strengths of the 4 teams in that division. I think the division could be won on a relatively poor record. Because you're not going to have that one big standout that's going to win all their divisional games.
Exactly.
In theory, the Seahawks, last season was stronger than us, but again, we win at CenturyLink Field. That's our home now.
Yeah, it's always say that on paper you think one thing, but then when you hit the field, it's going to be a completely different ball game, regardless of whether you're playing at CenturyLink, if you're playing at the Arizona, whether you're playing at Arrowhead or anything like that. You can always look on the paper, but come game day, anything could happen.
Yeah, and then this season, of course, you've got the anomaly of behind closed doors.
Yeah.
So that home field advantage is going to be severely diminished.
Yeah, exactly.
That chucks something else completely into the mix. I think this season is going to be a very interesting one for a number of reasons. Yeah. And again, talking about Cliff and his offense and what's strengths and weaknesses. He's at other KKs like Kevin Keegan, isn't it? It doesn't matter how many the opposition score, because we're always going to score more.
Exactly. It's the Kansas Chiefs, let's say, of offense. Yeah. We may score loads more than you. You try and beat us on points. So it's obviously continuity is going to be the biggest thing this season, because if you can return majority, like obviously with the Bills, we've returned our pretty much our starting O-line this year, and pretty much most of our team.
Yeah.
With the situation that we're experiencing with COVID, I think any team that can keep that continuity and maybe add that 1 or 2 pieces, like obviously you guys with Hopkins and now obviously Simmons in the draft, that continuity will obviously help most teams during this off season. So that's one thing that we've obviously got to look forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think we haven't really had any significant big name departures. Covered this season, which is important. I think that, if anything, we clearly have brought in the names like Hopkins.
Yeah. So
great.
Yeah. So obviously, thank you, Myles, for coming on the show. For people that want to actually to follow you and follow obviously what you guys do over the Cardinals, do you want to plug anything at all?
Yeah, sure. I'll say if you check check us out on Twitter, you can find us at British Birdgang. You can also find our podcast. It's mainly run by Tom. That's the British Birdgang Breakdown. You can find that on Apple Podcasts, and I don't know if it's on Spotify. I'll have to double check that one, but all your usual good podcast providers will carry it.
Yep. Yeah, that's cool. No, I mean, this was awesome to chat with you. I think my co-host Alex probably would have had a load more questions. So between me and you, I'm glad he actually didn't come on, because he would probably yabber on for a long time. But anyway, Myles, thank you very much.
It's way too hot for that today. It's cold beer.
Exactly. And he's going back to Buffalo next week, so I can at least get a little bit of peace on the podcast and doing these interviews. So it's all good. But anyway, thank you very much for coming on the show. I wish you good luck for the season, bar week 10, obviously. And thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thanks, Matt. Pleasure to be here.
Now let's go. We'll make a run. No more. Bills on 3. 1, 2, 3. Bills.
Okay, Bills fans, Matt here. Just thanking you for watching and subscribing to our YouTube channel and our podcast. What I ask for you to do, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, follow these links here, and also continue to subscribe, review, support us on our podcast, which you can find on all platforms, and also continue to subscribe to the UK Bills YouTube. Let's grow this UK fan base, spread the word, and I will say this: go Bills, go Bills. The Bills make me want to shout.